Right, folks, we'll make a start.
Yep. Yes, let's go.
This is really just more of a catch-up as opposed to being just a formal meeting. And it's about topics that you want to discuss or ideas that we have. I have just put one or two ideas, which you can see on the screen there. Is the discipline of retaining COVID-19 security. How do we continue to keep people and places clean? And what should we be doing in terms of hand washing? You'll see a lot of debate in the media about separation distances, 2 meters versus 1 meter. And what do you think about that? And then any other topics that you want to discuss, if you just want to shout them out now. We'll make a list of them.
Jim, can I just start off there? I have a couple of apologies there. Karen Goodall from Huhtamaki sends his apologies, as done Brian Price from HSANI. Michael McLaughlin is just running a bit late, and he's hopefully going to join us at some stage later on.
Later on.
Sorry, Martin, who was the first one? Karen Goodall?
Karen Goodall,
right.
C-O-R-I-N.
Okay, from where was that?
Huhtamaki in Lisburn.
Okay. Thank you. And just to add, with apologies from Rachel Hunter and Raymond Martin as well.
Yep. Well, let's go, folks. Let's see. Any topics that you particularly want to debate?
Jim, I think if we have a discussion just to go through the topics that's on the agenda there, but what I might suggest is that towards
Martin, you're frozen.
It was a bit of a cliffhanger from Martin.
I'll go through.
That sounded good, but it just lost. We just lost it.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So what I'm planning on doing is just let you go ahead, talk, and then what I'll do is, am I breaking up again?
Just a wee bit.
Yeah. If I get clicked out, I'll come back in.
Right.
So,
you're either breaking up or cracking up there, Martin, one of the two.
Probably both.
Right, so we'll chat away and let you come in later on.
Okay.
Okay, anybody having problems with COVID-19 security?
No real issues with it. As I say, just the same as I said the last time, there's just a constant battle to keep it enforced. The standard can slip very quick. So it's just constantly keeping on it to keep it enforced.
Yep.
Jim, can I ask a point there? Do you think we need some sort of legislation for this now? I know Southern Ireland's brought it out for the commercial side or the builder side and various things they got there, and also are looking at other ways they're doing it. And I got a 24-page document or 25-page document. It's very good reading. But how does people feel about that? Do you think there should be some sort of legislation for that?
Sorry, Gordon, was that what industry? Is that the waste industry, did you say?
It's actually in the construction industry, but they're also now looking at for retail and other situations down there. It's a fairly wide document. As I said, it's fairly extensive. Does the Health and Safety Executive, I know Martin might have been there at the minute, but do we need to think about actually asking the government to put some sort of legislation in so that security stays in place and it's adopted the way it should be? Because we are going to be like this for a long time. Mm-hmm. Any views from anybody else? No?
I think so, Gordon, because otherwise everyone's just going to develop their own safety measures that they see fit for themselves, and then there's no consistency across the board. So to me, there needs to be some sort of guidelines out from somebody somewhere.
Yeah, I think it does sound like a good idea, definitely. I'm not sure who we start lobbying to get that done, but it's a bit chaotic, the central government response to this.
Yes, that's sort of putting it a bit mildly. Yeah. It also means that people who have invested in COVID security are at a financial disadvantage for those who want to cut corners as usual.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons that I'm worried about it is the actual fact is, you know, when we are starting to ease the lockdown now and companies are starting to go and move into different places or into their own properties and that again. You know, and you know, I even have small retailers talking to me about how pleased they actually are getting in, but they're really worried about how to keep the social distancing and all that sort of thing and how they actually deal with the issues that they have in their own shops and various things like that. So we're very lucky in the waste industry that we have been kept going and been able to do that. But are we making sure that we're all compliant to that legislation, which I think is very important?
Well, I'm wondering, is it likely to change this 2 metre distance? It seems to be potentially the make or break for a lot of businesses. This 2 metres gets reduced to even 1.5 metres. And I'm just wondering what people's thoughts are, and you know, what is the likelihood of that happening, or will it? I suppose actually, just looking down, that's on the agenda. You've put that down there to maybe discuss later on, but how likely is it to happen?
Yeah, that's what we're expecting here. We are expecting it to go to 1 metre. We have kind of agreed that regardless if it goes to 1 metre, 2 metres has worked for us. We're going to potentially keep the internal policy at 2 metres, even if the government relaxes it. That's what we're talking about at the minute, but it may change.
What I would say is that the hospitality trade is pushing very hard for the 1 metre social distancing, basically to make sure they get more people in the pubs and the restaurants and whatever. I don't know why you have listened to a few of the chefs about the UK who are actually saying that if they open their restaurants, a meal for 2 people is probably going to cost somewhere in about £250 because they have to keep social distancing, and they say they're not just going to make money. It's better that they close up and not open. And again, those are sort of the things that are big issues. We're very lucky here in the waste management industry that we do have issues that we can actually look at and resolve very quickly. But I still do think it would be great if there was some sort of legislation or forward that everybody was following. I think that would be the best way to move forward. I don't know how other people feel, but I just think it would be beneficial for companies to have a guideline to work to. And if everybody's doing the same, then we're all singing off the same hymn sheet.
Yeah, I would kind of agree to that. The only thing I would say, though, is sometimes a one-size-fits-all policy doesn't always work. You know, every workplace almost is an individual place, an individual space, and it needs individual measures. I do agree with Gordon that there should be some type of standard that we should all be adhering to.
Jim, who would be the best one to look at that? Is it HSE to look at that and sort of push that with government, do you think, or do they not want to maybe get involved with that?
I don't want to try and drop that one onto Martin, because it's not always. If this is going to be a lobbying, then it's down to ourselves.
Yeah.
As the trade body or part of the trade body. It would also be a joint effort, possibly between ourselves, WishGB and CIWM.
Yeah, good thought. Might be a way of looking at that, you know.
Because the way government policy works, it depends on numbers. If we're sitting on our own here in Northern Ireland, we can certainly lobby the Northern Ireland Assembly. The CIWM lobbies the Northern Ireland Assembly, and other trade bodies, IOSH, the Royal Society of Chemistry, and there's another environmental operation that's just escaped me, but it's very much a numbers game. So the more bodies we can get on board, then the more chance we have of actually getting traction with these things.
More voices raising the same issues and generally getting more action then.
Yep. Because I remember Joseph was trying to start an industry-wide body last year. Don't know, I think it had one meeting and it didn't maybe get very much farther. So we need to start pulling, if we want to put this into a firmer footing, we need to say, right, in the waste industry, we can work to 2 meters. We understand hospitality wants to go to 1. Now, whether that's a safe option or not, it may be very nice for a business driver and break-even point, but whether you can operate safely at 1 meter, I'm not too sure.
Tim, sorry to interrupt. We have, here in Macon, we've got many different procedures for the staff to adhere to. Now, there is circumstances down in the yard where it is virtually impossible. Just some of the processes have to be carried out on site. It is very difficult to stick within the 2 meter rule. We had said in our risk assessments and SSOWs, etc., is where you can't work a 2 meter distance apart from your co-worker, then you can wear additional PPE. Is that a valid enough point, where we can bring in the masks and the visors, where sometimes the guys do have to work maybe shoulder to shoulder in some instances?
Yep, that's right, and that's what we've put into the guidance, is if we can't maintain 2 meter separation, then we start looking at face coverings, PPE, if the job requires proper RPE, yes, or face shields and things like that. Yes. That's where we need to go.
Because if we were successful in lobbying and new legislation or whatever, as someone said earlier, it's not one size fits all. Not everybody can operate within the 2 meters. In some cases, like here in the office, with the staggered break times, all that sort of thing, we've been able to deal with it very successfully. But there are times down in the yard where the men just can't work, 2 meters apart. They're taking care of the task or whatever. So I wouldn't want to say, yes, you want to see legislation, you want to see everybody, something, everywhere that one company, 2 companies or 5 companies are investing in separation policies and cleaning policies, and some people doing nothing. But at the same time, you want the legislation to work for the likes of ourselves, where in some cases the 2 meter distance rule is a bit of a pain.
And I'm not sure, is it to the mics? Anne, could you sit a bit closer to the speaker? Keep breaking up here. Or?
We're sort of trying to keep the 2 meter. So, but can you hear me any better? Maybe
that's a bit better, yeah.
Getting bad internet here down in Portadown as well, so I keep saying we every now and again. So, but that's the point. In some cases, in some areas of our particular yard here, the 2 meter rule is difficult, to say the least. Will PPE and extra precautions be enough in those circumstances?
Yeah, I mean, I would second that, with the 2 meters being hard to keep at all times. I mean, our picking lines are about 1.4 meters between the individuals. So what we have is the perspex screens, the active physical barriers, so that work that close beside their colleagues. The other thing that we have is the face coverings to maneuver about the facility. Sometimes moving about, you will break a 2 meter rule. Face coverings to mitigate that, and screens to mitigate areas where people are working close by, and that's how we have tackled that. It seems to have worked for us. Seems to have worked so far.
Yeah, we would have similar experiences or problems in Belfast Council, where guys or people are coming on to our recycling centres, and obviously there's limits to who can come in with what vehicles and what materials. So our guys are having to talk to people at the entrance gate.
It's just csure.net/pricing. What is it? csure.net. csure.net. Yeah, all right there for you.
All right.
Hi, Colin, we can hear you there. Don't you can hear us.
our guys were saying last week, and the wind and rainy, there were a couple of windy, rainy days, and when they were approaching cars while maintaining the 2-meter distance, people inside the cars couldn't hear what they were saying. And we have highlighted it as well, potentially if people are coming on sites with maybe hearing impairments, visual impairments, that 2-meter zone can actually cause potential problems, and if the person's wearing a mask, it can add to those problems as well as in communication issues. And at recycling centres as well, we aren't assisting members of the public with offering materials, because we move towards more normal services that potentially could become an issue that breaching the 2 meters if we are offering assistance to members of the public. I'd just be interested to hear from, I don't know if there's any other councils here.
Yeah, Peter Kerr's about there somewhere.
Yeah, hi Jennifer. Yeah, we would experience, we haven't experienced too many problems, to be honest, with the recycling centres. We're still operating the appointment system, whereby people have to phone up and make an appointment before they turn up. And I haven't heard now from the guys on the ground that they're having too many issues. The social distancing thing for me seems to be working okay as far as I'm aware. But I'll do a wee bit of digging and come back on it.
Are you offering assisted lifts, or that's not happening, I take it?
No. The members of the public are told when they make the appointment that they must be able to empty their own. So basically, if you can get it into the car, you should be able to get it out of the car when you get to the recycling centre.
Yeah.
I have to say, one thing that I have noticed with the waste coming in from the amenity centres is there does seem to be more items in there that we're not licensed to handle. So I don't know if the social distancing and has led to maybe less supervision of what's actually going into the waste. So I don't know if either Jennifer or a colleague there have seen that.
We're very limited in what materials we're accepting at the moment. So it's what we're deeming general waste. So that's black bagged waste, and that would be the waste that we can't obviously go. We're not going through. So that's being deposited in black bags. The rest would be mainly recycling, so cardboard, glass. But we are adding materials as we're now into sort of phase 2. So we're adding things like electrical items to that. It would be the black bag waste that is the issue, yeah.
Well, it seems to be our bulky waste coming in, our bulky loads, that stuff's mixed in there. That seems to be where we're getting it.
What are you getting, David? What sort of stuff's going in it?
We've had gas canisters, and we've had tires, quite an increase in tires. Electrical components, electrical equipment, things like that. We're seeing a bit of a dramatic increase in since the amenity centres have started back up again. And I was just thinking, I wonder, is it down to the 2 meters and maybe less supervision of what's actually going on the ground, but I don't know, obviously.
Possibility, yeah.
Just a thought. It's not an easy one to tackle too. Like, I know you guys are up against it when you're dealing with members of the public, and when they put it in the black bag, God knows what they put in there.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's worth like an advertising campaign, or a radio campaign or something, just to put that message out there about dealing with our waste responsibly, and thinking about where it ends up and the potential hazards and dangers that causes to the other folk.
Yeah, do you know, would you be able to tell specifically, David, the council areas that's coming from?
Well, for us guys, it's mostly Newry and Mourne, I think, is where the stuff's coming at the minute. I'll get a wee chat with the plant manager, and I'll maybe update you, in the next meeting, if that's okay.
I can certainly take the point back to Lassan and make the guys in the Local Authority Safety Advisors Network aware of it, and ask them to pass it on to their recycling centre managers, just to maybe if they can keep a wee bit of a tighter eye on what's going in there.
Brilliant. Thank you.
No worries.
Peter and Jennifer, can I ask a quick one again, if you don't mind? I've noticed that where I'm from, and other councils are putting screens and bin lorries and various things like that there to protect men from driver to loader. But what I've noticed is that we seem to be drifting back to the task and finish situation. where I think there's actually 2 lorries in my route on a daily basis picking up waste and taking it away. What do you feel about that, or is that happening in most councils in Northern Ireland?
Yeah, my understanding, Gordon, is that is what is happening in most councils, and it's while it may be, I suppose it is a task and finish operation at the minute. It's not. We're making very clear that that's not the system that we're reverting to, and that the sooner we can get back to normal, as it were, will be, that's what we'll be doing. I think that the 2 lorries obviously came about because of social distancing, or the van following behind the lorry. We didn't want the guys coming in and standing around a clocking machine in the morning, so or in the afternoon when they're up. So it's task and finish in name only, but certainly won't be reverting to that.
Okay, then
I think similar in Belfast, Gordon, because you would know, you'd be familiar with Duncrew. Just this year, the size of Duncrew couldn't really accommodate all our staff at any one time, but that is something that has been raised and needs to be considered in our recovery plan, how we maintain social distancing with staff coming back to the mustering station, or as you say, Peter, to clock in and out.
Very good, thank you.
Just wondering, is Colin still there?
Still here, still here.
Still here. How are you finding the waste streams, Colin? Is there changes in what you're getting through?
Yeah, well, some of our streams have increased by 30%, so it's a lot heavier on the guys, and obviously we're not being able to put out an extra man in the lorry. It's down to 2 main crews, so they're lifting up more materials, and they don't have as many crew assistants, so it is pretty difficult on them. We are starting to see some people starting to return back to work, and we're a wee bit worried about that, to be honest. With some of the staff that were in isolation, they're now thinking they're ready to come back to work. So we're just trying to get our heads around that at the minute.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
To be honest, everything that's went out to all our staff, all the risk assessments and all the memos on the return to work, I'm planning just to have an interview with each person and getting them to sign everything and that they've read and they understand all the control measures we've got in place.
Yeah, that's a good point.
On that, Jim, sorry, if you do have a member of staff who's currently, say, shielding, they have received their letter or whatever, and they should be shielding maybe because of a health condition or whatever, and that employee then decides, you know what, I think maybe I can come back to work now, or another month down the line. We have a couple of these types of people who are still currently off on furlough. When that employee does come to work, can that employee ask for extra measures to be introduced to the workplace, for them alone, to be for extra protection? Or, we feel that the system we have here should be fairly conducive to everybody, whether they have a health condition or not. But can that employee, say, put in extra demand? Say if that employee operates a vehicle, can they say, well, there's nobody else to enter my vehicle? As you know, we're a small site here, and we've got 2 or 3 others driving the same vehicle in one day. Now, we have implemented cleaning processes there where each vehicle is cleaned every time they enter and exit. But I was just wondering if there is an employee in that position, legally, where do you stand? Or are you just doing everything right if you're getting the risk assessments right?
Yeah, what you're saying, Anne, is that your systems and conditions are good enough for the vulnerable.
We feel that they are, yes.
Therefore, they will be good enough for everybody else.
Yes, exactly.
Yep, but the legal answer to your question, and I'm just going to wait for Martin to keep me right here as well, is that under the management regs, if someone has a particular vulnerability, then the risk assessment has to reflect that, and they are possibly entitled to ask for additional measures or additional precautions.
Right, okay.
But what you're saying is, hey, we'll go and protect the most vulnerable. Now, if we do that, then the protection for everybody else and every other category or every other group will be fine.
Yes, yeah, well, that's what I'm hoping, Jim. Yeah, you know, yes, if you're a vulnerable person, I think if you're confident enough to come back to work, you're confident enough in our process, then that if it takes that two other people will be using the same vehicle or the same forklift or whatever, you should be confident enough in the process to set in that that'll protect you. You know, you shouldn't be able, you know, John, and he said, well, hold on a wee minute, I'm using this forklift.
Sorry, I can't hear you, Anne. Can everybody else hear Anne?
Not very well.
Not very well.
My sound's still very bad, is it? Can you hear me now?
Just about, yeah.
No, what I was saying there was that if the employee is confident enough in our processes, so it would be a little bit inconvenient for us to say, well, that forklift, there's only that one vulnerable person can use it because, you know, he doesn't want to be mixing with others, or he doesn't want to be coming, you know, touching surfaces or whatever. Is it reasonable that the employee should be able to ask that?
Well, would there not be some kind of clean down sort of system in place that the vehicle or whatever kind of piece of equipment that they're using, and then there wouldn't need to be any special adjustments or any sort of things there. But really, if you had a system in place to clean that vehicle down every time somebody goes out from using it and maybe somebody else is going to use it, that might mitigate that sort of situation. What do you think?
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. We do have the cleaning, you know, with the bottle of disinfectant, with the wipes, with everything there in the vehicle, and every employee has now been instructed at the toolbox top, and everybody has now seen their new risk assessments for COVID-19 that they're to clean each vehicle as they get into it and upon exiting it as well. But I'm just wondering, is that enough if you do have a couple of vulnerable members of staff?
Well, open that one up.
For me, it's everybody's responsible for their own workstation and have to clean it before and after use. So to be honest, if you apply that same thing to vehicles as well, they're responsible for their own workstation and they're responsible for cleaning their own work area, then really that should be enough of a control, I think.
Right, okay. Well, that's good enough. I was just wondering how far you need to take it for maybe extra vulnerable members of staff.
For me, the vulnerable members of staff, it's when they return, it's not even, it's the ones that are in self-isolation that have family members that are vulnerable. You know, well, where can you draw the line? You know, it's going to be difficult in that situation. You can deal with each person individually and try and help them out as far as you can. But really, if it's not even them, it's their family members that they're worried about. You know, it's difficult.
It is a difficult one, yeah.
Martin, have you any thoughts?
It's breaking up quickly, Jim. I think I'm getting the gist of the conversation. As Nicholas said, yes, you know, providing there is some sort of regime there to clean down a workstation after it's been used, that should be sufficient. Now, you have to look at the other jobs that they're going to be doing. You have to look at the canteen they're going to be using, the toilet facilities and all that as well. So it's not just primarily the forklift or the piece of equipment that they're using. All of that needs to be taken into context. In relation to legislation, everybody has a legal responsibility to look after their employees. So, you know, it falls under the Health and Safety at Work Order 1978, no matter what. I will be touching a wee bit more on it later on when I'm going through all the different examples that I have come across. And part of that I will be looking at is frequently touched surfaces. There's in-cab screens and positive cases if they're identified. So I'll talk a bit more about it later on, but definitely, you know, it does have to, each role has to be risk assessed and those measures have to be put in place. And if there is somebody there that is vulnerable and they've been identified as being vulnerable, then you will have to look at them individually. Are they capable of doing that job? Or would they be better being moved somewhere else within the organization to do it, you know, to undertake a different role? Again, it's not going to be one cap fits all, so it's going to be on an individual basis.
That's good enough, Martin. Thanks.
Any more wee easy ones like that?
We getting started, Jim.
Well, go on ahead, have another go then.
No, let somebody else in there.
Do you think if we're doing a risk assessment for somebody who is vulnerable, I mean, it's always a better risk assessment if you involve the people it's likely to affect. Do you think that actually a communication between the vulnerable person and the person, the health and safety person, and maybe other people who are working there, you could have some kind of ownership into this is what we're putting in place to keep you safe. What do you think about it? Are we all prepared to are you prepared to play your part? And as Martin was saying, the employer has a legal responsibility, but the employee also has a legal responsibility to take reasonable care of their own health and safety. So trying to marry those two together will maybe make things easier for the employer and the employee. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a good point, Nicola, yeah.
I wrote a wee policy, a return to work policy, a wee document. And I'll share it with the group and let's just get a wee look at it. I've another thing I'm working on, a wee peer review folder, but it's kind of in line with what we're talking about right now. And it's worth a wee look, guys. It might even help some of you out if you're deciding about the return to work plan for people. But effectively, as Martin and Nicola were alluding to, that really it's an individual basis, looking at each person as an individual and getting the right return for that individual. So say I'll share that with the group, or I'll send it on to Jim and Rachel and ask them to share it with you.
That's great, thanks, David.
Put another thing in the back pocket for later on, though.
Okay.
David, can I ask, is that going to be a major issue for somebody like yourselves? I know Colin's talked about it there. Is it the same in your side of things? You're a different part of the country or whatever. Is that the same sort of a fact for yourself?
No. In fairness, we're actually we've been okay. We've been very, very lucky during COVID, in the sense we've been able to keep running at 100% capacity. Our capacity hasn't dropped at all. Now, we did get all the home workers or all the people to work from home, and even somebody from the garage has been working from home from his own shed, and we've had that from 2 weeks before lockdown. But just at this stage now, we're starting to look into bringing people back. And in fact, if anything, it's more employees are actually pushing us to come back. There's a few employees that are sort of fed up with working from home, and maybe their own mental health is suffering, feeling isolated or whatever it is, and they're looking to get back in. So that was what sort of prompted that document. But it's funny, it's sort of the way I done the document, it splits into 3 categories. You got your high risk, and if you're high risk or high risk at home, continue to work from home. If you feel that you need to come back or mental health suffering or you're not able to do your full job working from home, then we'll look to bring you back, and that'll involve a meeting. And then the 3rd category is people that if you can work from home, continue to work from home. So it's sort of like a wee, what would you say, a flow chart leading people into each category. And that's the sort of route that we're taking. But luckily enough, operation-wise, it's not been affected. And if anything, it's actually the people that want to return to work is actually forcing a hand a wee bit as such.
Good. Okay, that's very good, actually. Impressive to see, David. Actually, I think there would be a lot of people out there interested to see that document, just to see how you've done that. Big help.
Yeah.
Anybody can just change the logo on it, and it's good to go, really, the way it's written.
Okay, David, do you want to, Rachel's off this week, do you want to mention your wee Microsoft Teams idea now as well?
Yes, Jim, that's a good point, because that actually ties into that policy. What we set up here, initially it was really just for the likes of me, Jim, and maybe Rachel to share a few documents. The right team called it WishNI. So it's a Microsoft Teams WishNI team. What we can do is we can add any of you folks into it that wants to be involved in it. I sort of started working on it there the other day, and what I've done is I put in the WishNI guidance documents in a folder. I've also put in a folder for the WishNI meeting minutes. And the 3rd folder that I created and put in there was a folder called peer review. Now, what I see this as is an opportunity for us folks to share information and even review each other's information to look for gaps or shortcomings. Now, obviously, any document that goes in there will only really be a draft document because it's at the early stages. But I see it as maybe like a brain trust. Us folks can maybe look into what each other's doing, cast an eye over it, and maybe help keep each other right. So if any folks want to join the team, if you just let Rachel Hunter know, we can certainly add you guys into that WishNI team and get you access to these folders that I'm talking about. The peer review one, I literally had that idea a couple of days ago, but I think it could be a very beneficial thing for us people. It's a big use for all of us, really. What do you think?
I think that's a super idea, David. I really agree with that. I think that would be brilliant.
Yeah, seems really good, David.
Glad you're on board. That's excellent.
That's it. Everybody needs signed up to Office Microsoft 365, but to be a member of Teams, don't they?
Yeah, you do.
Download the
That's
app.
how we're communicating with our team at the minute. I seem to be on my director every week through Microsoft Teams, and that's how we're actually getting information out to our employees who are furloughed and who are working from home as well. So Microsoft Teams really is very good for us.
Yes.
And we never used it before, and it's very new, so it's proven to be very positive. So no, that's a great idea, David.
Thank you, Wendy. But yeah, as I say, the Teams is the same here, Wendy. We've been using it flat out since the start of this. And, there's multiple different teams. A great way to share information, a great way to catch up with each other, and it's all positive. Really.
No, it's brilliant.
So say yes, if anybody wants access into the team, as I say, just drop Rachel Hunter an email or even myself, and we'll get you access.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'll do.
Okay, folks, any other topics for discussion before we turn to Martin? And
Jim, can I just bring up one wee thing? I'm sure you've all heard of Usul. I don't know why you can see this or not. Usul is now producing face masks. They're a local business. They're about $2.50 each, but I'm sure if you were buying them in bulk, you might get some sort of discount on them. They're very, very good. I have been putting them out to people like hairdressers and people like that there, and shop owners, butchers, and various things like that. But I've found them very, very good. They are cloth. You can wash them and reuse them again. So it means that it's not a one-off thing. Maybe a wee bit of money extra to spend, but again, just for your own personal use. Now, there is a sales team in Usul that you can go online to contact to get these. And when I picked my lot up yesterday, there's different sizes between medium and large. What I would say to you is the medium one is really a very good one. The large one is slightly bigger, a bit uncomfortable, but the medium is very, very good. So what I would say to you is for $2.50, it may be worthwhile even for your own personal use. And I'm sure they'd be quite happy to sell as many as they like to you, or small amounts or whatever. And it might be very beneficial for people to get them.
Let's see it on, Gordon. Try it on.
Do you really want it on, Colin? No?
Yeah.
It is actually very good.
Oh, it's very
that's a great job.
Dr. Boyd.
You don't get your makeup over it.
No, exactly. So that's the best thing about it. They're well worth looking at if I was you.
Oh,
What do you call the company again? Usul.
Usul, yes.
Usul,
Usul
okay.
is the Ulster Support and Education and Learning. Don't know if you know.
Brilliant. Okay, brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah, they make beds, don't they, Gordon? Yeah.
That's right. They make all sorts of things. They do a lot of stuff for hospital wash bags now for medics and nurses and various things they got there.
Do you get them in different colours? Do you get them in pink or?
Well,
only joking.
when I was only getting the white ones, I wasn't worried about the pink ones.
Pink would go well with your hair.
Thanks very much. I haven't got any, Jim.
Gordon, is there a wee insert in that? Gordon, I got one the other day, and there's like a wee sort of inner flap that you can put in a like a filter or even tissue. Is that just straight cloth?
This one's just a straight cloth, but it's like triple. And it's seemingly they've done various tests on it and various things like that there. So they seem to have got approval for it, Peter. So they're making them in large quantities now, and seem to be supplying them to ambulance staff and various things like that there that quite like them. So.
And Gordon, you said they were washable, sorry.
Sorry, Anne?
You said they were washable.
Yes, they're washable. So it means that if you have staff and you're giving them out, you can actually say, look, it's washable. Wash them, reuse them, do whatever.
Do you know, is there a waiting time on them, or did you get yours straight away? Or
You have any amount of stock at the minute now.
all right.
Any amount of stock.
And I must admit that the employees really do prefer the cotton masks, the rewashable cotton masks. They really do buy into them. They're much more comfortable to wear. And what we did was we gave everybody two, one to wear that day and one to get washed for the next day, you know, so in that cycle.
Well, what I would say to you, David, it might be another option for you to buy somewhere else, but they're all made locally and they're made by local people. So it's nice just to see the community sort of pulling together and sort of doing that.
And that's a good bonus to the local connection. I'll get them a wee call.
How do you spell that? How do you spell the company?
USEL.
USEL.
Yeah, they take our mattresses for recycling and
Okay,
they are social enterprise.
Hopefully they're not made out of the mattresses.
I know.
Okay, that was really good. That's a really useful one. Martin, have you got a story for us?
Yeah, basically, I just want to give you a bit of background as to the sort of things that we're seeing when we're about. Hopefully, some of it will be of benefit to you. Some of you are maybe already doing it, and some of it won't apply. So apologies, just if you can bear with me. There's a number of different topics. So we're looking at social distancing, welfare facilities, hand sanitizing, frequently surfaces, safety screens, in-cab screens, and etc. So we'll just run through them, the sort of things that we're seeing from different organisations. Not all of these are specific to waste, but so I just might give you a bit of an idea that some of it may be of benefit to use. So a lot of organisations are doing staggered start and finish times. That can be up to 3 or 4 different times, maybe sort of 15 minutes difference between each start and finish time. Again, staggered lunch and tea breaks just to minimise the amount of people within the welfare facilities and that. Some of them are doing markings in areas where people are tend to gather. I know likes of Regen and that, you have to put the markings on the ground coming into the site to show the 2 metre distancing. But there's other organisations that are doing it for the likes of smoking areas, just literally putting an X on the ground, because what you tend to, people having a cigarette, they tend to congregate together and they tend to come a lot closer. So they're putting these X's, which are 2 metres apart, people stand on it. It's easier then for a supervisor or a COVID marshal to come along and be able to identify, you know, if people are standing too close together. And I say entrance into canteens and toilets and walk up to clock machines and that, the markings are also being used. In relation then to welfare facilities, by the way, if anybody wants to stop me, give a shout and we can have a discussion as we're going along.
Martin, if you don't mind, just the floor coverings or the floor markings. What were they using for the floor markings? Were they using stickers or were they painting?
Both. It depends whether it's inside or out. Outside seems to be a spray paint, so it does. Inside seems to be tape, so it does. Something that can be easily removed should the restrictions be relaxed. So
I'll tell you why, Martin. We got the floor stickers down inside. They lasted about a day. It lasted 1 to 2 days, and then we were painting them in.
Yeah. I mean, that is the problem with some of the sites. Some of them will last, and others they won't. Unfortunately, it's whatever suits yourself. You might need to try, a couple of different. If they're not staying on the ground, you might be able to put a marker on the wall beside it. So as they're walking down, at least there's a mark or something there, or something solid that they can stand adjacent to, as opposed to putting a mark on the ground. A few different options there. We're seeing a wide range of ones.
We actually did was we got a wee stencil made, Martin. We got a stencil made of the feet then, and we people were painting them in to mitigate it. It's worked out okay for us now.
Yeah, right. Provided you get something that works best for yourself. In relation then to welfare facilities, a lot of organisations, and no, Colin, you have done this as well up at Bryson, you put in additional canteens and that, just to try and stagger, the amount of people within a certain area to reduce congestion. Some places with the canteens being quite close together and people sitting at tables, what a lot of people have done is they put perspex screens down the centre of tables, so allow people to sit either side face to face, but there's a screen coming in between them. If you want people to sit side by side, that screen can then be extended round the side, so that people have nearly like a cubicle. in the canteen facility. If you are deciding on doing that, please make sure that the screen goes down to the table, because what we don't want is somebody being in this wee area and cough. It can then ricochet off the table and go underneath to the person opposite. Okay. The advantage a lot of people are getting with that is that they can actually increase the number of people that they have in the canteen. Therefore, that's minimising the number of breaks that they're having to have. Let's see. Yeah, if some places have taken away a lot of, if you have the mobile chairs, or just chairs that aren't fixed to the table, they're taking the chairs away so that there's only one chair per table, so it doesn't give anybody the option of actually sitting at the table. But you can tend to see that the chairs will actually migrate around, so people will tend to get closer. So you might want to put a marking on the ground as to that's where the chair should be. And again, it's an easy identification mark to be able to say that's where the chair should be, move it back around, okay? A wee toolbox talks to the people just so that they know exactly what's happening and the reason for it being there. Yeah, so some organisations would have a hand washing trough as opposed to individual wash hand basins, or they might have hand washing basins that are side by side. Again, if you have two members of staff going up, they're going to be adjacent to each other. A simple perspex screen or a stainless screen in between those gives a person a wee cubicle that they can go and wash their hands. Some of them are putting up a wee clock with a second hand, which then allows them to time the 20 seconds required for adequate hand washing. One that we are coming up across is if any of us are using hand dryers. Research has shown that if a person doesn't wash their hands adequately, and then they use a hand dryer, it does promote the production of an airborne contaminant droplet. We would recommend that you would stop using the hand dryer for the time being and use a disposable hand paper towel. The hand towel can actually act as a secondary cleaning process. If somebody doesn't clean their hands properly, then you can clean the contaminant then can go onto the paper towel as opposed to being dispersed in this aerosol. Clean areas thoroughly after each sitting to prevent cross-contamination. So that would have been the likes of the forklift truck, but it can also be for the likes of the canteens, toilet facilities, vending machines, whatever it is. But definitely if you're having multiple sittings within a canteen, make sure that once one sitting goes out, the place is cleaned down. I don't care who does it, whether it's a designated domestic or whether it's the people that are actually using the area themselves. It's providing it's done to make sure that it's clean for the next person coming in. Make sure the cleaning products are available for the staff. But also if you have screens up in your canteen, they need to be cleaned as well. So they, let me see, locker rooms. Quite a lot of places we go into, there will be lockers where clothing, their overcoats or their PPE is overlapping. Okay, all that must be put into the locker, so it must be kept separate from everybody else's, just to stop that cross contamination. Some organisations now are permitting their employees to eat their lunch and breaks in the cars, so they can, again, to increase this social distancing, so that you don't have accumulation of people within, welfare facilities. What we would suggest is that you keep an eye on it. Get your COVID marshals or your supervisors to keep an eye on this, because what people tend to do is sit in the same car, people who aren't from the same household. It's just doing away with the good work that the organisation's putting in place. Again, if it is something that you notice, you might want to do a wee toolbox talk just in relation to that. If you have any water fountains on site, we would recommend that you provide a disposable cup as opposed to having them drink it directly from the water fountain. Again, it's just to stop the mouth contamination of the fountain itself. And again, it's going to be classed as a multi-touch point, so there's going to be required additional cleaning as well. Hand sanitizing stations then around sites. These must be positioned throughout the site. Please ensure that they're used. If you're going around, use them yourselves, okay? Set a good example. There is safety advice in relation to the alcohol-based ones. So they are. And what I'll do, Jim, is I'll send, there's the safety alert from Highways England that was sent to yourselves. I'll pass it on to you, and then it can be distributed out to the group. Because of the alcohol content within the hand sanitizer, on this occasion, the person hadn't allowed their hands to dry properly and went out into the workstation, and they touched something and got a static shock, which then resulted in their hands going on fire. Okay, the person then developed first and second degree burns on their hands. Okay, and the flame was virtually invisible. Okay, so I'll send that safety alert around to you, and it can be distributed out. There are a few photographs of the burns, which aren't nice, big blisters on the person's hands, but it's just to make you aware. You might want to do a wee toolbox talk with your staff that if they are using the alcohol-based wipe, that the alcohol-based sprays and sanitizers, that they do make sure their hands are dry before they go out and touch something. The other side of that is that with using the alcohol-based or constantly washing your hands, you can develop dermatitis. Okay, so make your staff aware of that. And if somebody does start to show dry skin or symptoms of dermatitis, obviously they need to put different measures in place. But again, hand creams and barrier creams and that would need to be provided as well. Your frequently touched surfaces, who's cleaning them down? Okay, who's responsible for them, and who's checking that they are cleaned down? Okay, you'll need to devise a list of all the areas that are regularly being touched. Okay, these can be clocking machines, door handles, microwaves, kettles, vent machines, handrails, bin lids even. And I'm not talking about the people, I'm talking about the actual receptacle. Have a look and see where people are regularly touching. Okay, it's amazing just how many places people will actually touch that you don't realize. Make a list out, and then it means that, God forbid, the person that's meant to be doing the cleaning goes off and sick, somebody can step in and follow in their footsteps and keep that cleaning process going ahead. What we're finding is that people are doing a lot of good work and they are doing a lot of cleaning, but unfortunately there's a lot of areas that would be getting missed. One site that I was out at there yesterday said that the clock machine, we don't use the finger recognition, we use facial recognition. It was working, but you could see that of the dust that was on the machine, that the finger recognition was squeaky clean. So it was still being used and they were unaware of it. Okay, so places like that just need to be regularly cleaned down, but do document it down so nothing gets missed. Safety screens then. Review all areas and access to where screens are required. Ensure that the screen that you're using is the correct size and height. Okay, if you have, say for talk's sake, a picking line, and you have one person standing on one side who is tall, and the other side somebody is small. Okay, it's not a case of one screen fits all unless it's a big screen. So make sure that it is doing the job that it's meant to be doing. Let me see. Yeah, we've had a couple of places where people have installed screens. The screens have been doing their job. They're excellent, and a lot of money and time has been spent putting them up. But unfortunately, they're inhibiting the access and egress to that workstation, where people have actually had to crawl under conveyors that were potentially operating to get to that workstation. So in a situation like that, put the screen on a hinge so it can push to the side. Person can go in and out to their workstation, wherever they're going, and then when they're in their workstation, they just close it straight back again. Okay. In-cab screens. Now, we've been doing a bit of contact with the DVA in relation to this, so this may be of interest to a few of you. DVA applies standards for cab screens where screens are catered for in legislation, and this falls under the Motor Vehicle Construction and Use Regulations 1999. Any cab screens that are fitted must meet the requirements of safety glass and safety glazing, which is Regulation 37. For example, any cab screen that is fitted should fragment in a way that does not cause harm to passengers. Some plastics or polycarbonates may break and splinter in the event of an accident, okay, and such materials should not be used within the vehicle and would not be acceptable. Sorry, my screen's just frozen here. A cab screen that is fitted should not impair a driver's view. Okay, that includes any glare that may be produced up on it. whether it be by sunlight or by PPE. The cab screen must not distort images or distances shown within mirrors. The framing in the cab for the screen can make it difficult to see fully and should not obscure windows or mirrors, and that's regulation 35. A cab screen must not interfere with vehicle safety systems, so this includes your steering, brakes, handbrakes, or even the airbags. So if your airbags are going to come out in the event of an accident, where do they come out and how do they come out? Is the screen going to impede them in any way? As a general provision, a vehicle must not be modified or carrying anything that is likely to cause danger. And again, this goes back to the screen and the shadow of it. To meet the criteria of the above points, vehicle owners should, if they're intending to install cab screens, have cab screens installed by professional vehicle modifiers, and contact insurance company to provide details of the cab screens that have been installed, and receive in writing confirmation from the insurer that the insurance is still going to be valid. Okay, so that's the message coming from the DVA. So if you do have the screens in, please make sure that you're checking that out. The next thing then is in relation to if you do have a positive case of COVID-19.
Can I ask
yes.
you a question just about
yeah.
It was something that we put in place, and it was that not to use the air conditioning, to use the open windows for possibility of the transmission of the aerosol-borne particles going through the air conditioning unit.
Yeah.
That's still the case, that they shouldn't be used?
It would, and I mean, I was listening to the news there last night, Jennifer, and they were talking about air conditioning units and the spread of COVID-19. And it really depends on the filtration system that you do have within the vehicle as to how, is it going to be transmitted or not? I don't know what you have in your vehicles, but thankfully the weather has been half decent. So yes, where possible, keep the window down as much as possible. That's what I would advise.
Yeah.
I think, Jim, that's what's in the guidance, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so yeah, we still stick with that for the time being, Jennifer.
Yeah.
Martin, sorry to interrupt there as well. Just you mentioned there a few minutes ago about staff at dinner time or lunchtime or whatever going out to their car,
yeah.
and somebody else in the car. We came across a wee situation there earlier in the week. One of the lorries had to be left to the mechanics for a service.
Yeah.
And speaking, the way it goes here is the lorry driver leaves the lorry over, and one of the other guys takes the van there and goes over and lifts them to take them back home from the mechanic. In that situation, what all I could do was say, well, obviously the guy had to get back from the mechanics.
Yeah.
One sit in the back and one sit in the front. Is that adequate?
I mean, it's not ideal. But at the end of the day, what sort of distance are you talking? Between the front seat and the back seat, if they're sitting at opposite corners.
It's one of them, Daniel's Jeep thingy there, the crew cab,
I mean, the distance from mouth to mouth probably wouldn't be far off the 2 meters if they're sitting in opposite corners.
Yes.
It might be in a situation like that, Anne, that you want to put on some sort of RPE just to be safe.
Right.
Whether you want the person in the back to stick on a visor, I don't know the distance of the vehicle that they're in. But I say it's something that you might want to just look at, just to consider, what measures you want to put in place to protect the employees. But again, whilst they're driving, if possible, put the windows down just to keep a good circulation of air.
Right, okay. I don't think really in a vehicle in an enclosed space like that, whether you're 2 meters away or 3 meters, depending on the size, if you cough or sneeze or whatever, it's going to go all over the place.
Yeah.
You need some sort of extra PPE there if you have to. The garage is 10 miles away. It's not as if you expect someone to walk back.
No.
You do need that. But again, you're relying then, you're falling back onto your PPE as such.
Yeah, unless there is some sort of partition and segregation within the vehicle, which again is probably unlikely. In a situation like that, you have to revert down to the lowest form of protection, you know, in the hierarchy of control. It's pretty much a one-off, so it's not going to be a regular thing.
Correct. No, that's good enough. Thank you, Martin.
Okay. Have organisations looked at what they're going to do if somebody displays the symptoms of coronavirus, whether it be loss of smell or taste or high temperature or a new continuous cough? Some organisations do have like an isolation room now, where there's PPE in there for the person that's going to come in and take the person's temperature. A box there that they can store the contaminated PPE of the person doing the testing or the person who has the symptoms. A bag then and labels that you can label the bag, and that's left in there for 72 hours to ensure that the virus has died before going off and getting laundered or disposed of. So it might be something that you just want to check just to make sure that you have something in place that should somebody display the symptoms that, you know, they can be managed. When you're working in close proximity, are there any waste organisations or recycling organisations out there doing temperature checks?
Yes, Martin.
You're doing them, David?
The whole way through, yeah. That's right. We do
Yeah.
have procedures written in case somebody does have a high temperature. So it's another procedure. I'll maybe add it into that policy folder, that peer review folder, and you can get a wee look at it, see what you think.
Okay. I mean, there's no requirement for doing temperature checks. And the thing to be mindful about the temperature checks is that you can develop a false positive and a false negative. So you can. So yes, by all means, if you're doing it, go ahead and keep doing it, because it does give you some sort of indication, but it's not the be all and end all. If somebody does show a lower temperature, it doesn't mean to say that they don't have it. There might be other symptoms being developed.
In fact, Martin, that's the very reason why early on we were enforcing the face coverings. We were wary of the asymptomatic spread.
Yeah.
You know, worried of people coming in with no symptoms and spreading it about the workplace. That they may pass that temperature check, but still might be affecting everybody else, and that's why the the face coverings we enforced it like we did.
Yeah.
It's a fair point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if anybody is doing the temperature checks on their employees, make sure that the person that is taking the temperature has a face visor on. Okay. What you don't want is somebody coming into close proximity to get their temperature taken, and next thing they cough all over them or sneeze all over them and they get contaminated. You want the temperature taker to have the adequate PPE. You'd be looking at you know, an FFP3 mask, an apron, visor, and gloves. You know, just to make sure that you protect their safety. Again, after they have been they've done that role, what do they do with the PPE? Some of it may need just to be cleaned down and wiped down or washed, but other stuff, you know, how's it being disposed of? Have your staff been trained how to take the PPE off correctly so as not to contaminate themselves or others in the process? Okay. But whatever measures that you are putting in place, you need to make sure that you tell your staff, okay, do a toolbox talk, and then just get them to sign off to say that they've been trained up. In relation to face coverings then, Gordon, that you were mentioning there, okay. The UK government is now advising that people should wear face coverings in all enclosed spaces for social distance and public transport, etc., like that. You need to be mindful that a face covering is not the same as a face mask, okay? So like a surgical mask or respirator, used as part of PPE equipment in healthcare or other workers. Face coverings are not intended to help the wearer, okay? They're intended to protect the individual, the inadvertent transmission of the disease to others from somebody that's asymptomatic, okay? So the person that's wearing it is not the person that you're trying to protect. You're trying to protect everybody else. So they are. There's more guidance available from that on the UK government website. HSE&I's stance on that is that we're not advising face coverings to be used within the workplace, okay? And it's important that I'm stating that in the workplace. Outside, it's entirely up to the person whether they want to wear them or not, especially if they're getting on public transport and that as well. Workplaces should follow the legal obligations that they have under the Health and Safety at Work legislation to protect their staff at work, but your employees are advised to continue to follow the advice of the employers and make reasonable workplace adjustments where required. The last point, I think it is, you'll be glad to hear, my computer would move. Yeah, it is the storage of waste, okay? We have been made aware of a few organisations that are stockpiling waste, okay? Whether it be difficulties to move it or whether it's because the price of the waste isn't good at the moment. Just be mindful that some waste materials can generate heat, and which unfortunately we've seen all too often can result in a fire, okay? So your waste rotation is paramount. It needs to be organised, needs to be controlled, okay? With the old waste being removed from the site first, and you might want to start doing temperature checks, etc. Just, you know, of baled waste or of stockpiles, just to make sure that the temperature isn't rising, whether that be putting a probe in or whilst taking a surface check, okay? That's pretty much me, Jim. That's pretty much everything that we're seeing at the moment. If there's anybody has any questions, by all means, give me a shout.
Well, just one observation, Martin. Well, apart from thanks for that, I've heard stories of people using paracetamol to reduce the temperature and defeat the temperature checks.
Yeah, we have come across that as well. Still have, yeah. I say you can get a false positive and a false negative, and I would be mindful of staff who are trying to do that. Also be mindful that we have, I think Wendy, was it yourself, was saying that you've got an employee or somebody come in on site who registered a high temperature because they were sitting in a warm car?
Yeah, that's it. I think we were sitting in a lorry, the heating up, and the guy up the lorry, and then the security man was, you know, getting close to it, yes, and then he did it 10 minutes later and his temperature had gone down, so we completely got rid of that because it was pointless, Martin.
Yeah. You can find that you know, it depends on the environment that the person has come out of. There's sites that we have gone into, and yes, we're getting temperature checked when we're going into some of the sites. And with me standing outside, my colleague in security signing in and doing his induction, with me standing outside, when I went in to get my temperature taken, it wouldn't register because the temperature was too low because I've been standing out in the cold. So do be mindful. It does depend on the environment that the person is coming from. Can have a big effect on the temperature that you're actually recording. But yes, Jim, we have heard of people taking paracetamol to actually reduce their temperature down so that they don't get isolated off to the side and, you know, further checks taken. People, when they are taking the temperature checking, is quite often from the forehead. And like I say, there is a big range. So some organisations are saying that a temperature of more than 35 from the forehead will result then in an investigation. They'll be taken into a room and then they'll do ear checks, temperature from your ear check, and get a more appropriate one, which is slightly more evasive as opposed to taking, you know, a couple of centimetres from the forehead. We're not requiring the temperatures to be taken, but I say just be mindful that they can be very misleading, so they can.
Great, thanks, Martin. Any questions for Martin?
Yeah, can I ask, Martin, have there been any issues, or you were talking there about the frequency of cleaning, any issues around toilets and responsibility of who cleans the toilets, how often they're done? Have there been any sort of initiatives by organisations to get around that? I know in one of our sites, the staff have actually allocated specific toilets to specific staff, so it's kind of developed an ownership of who cleans those. Some of our sites, under the WISH guidance, we have to make our toilets at our sites also available to the bin crews, bin collection crews. So we would have visiting users of our toilets. So, you know, do you leave it up to the individuals to clean? Do you enforce, you know, how many times a day is frequent? We do have external cleaners coming in a couple of times a week doing deep cleans of the toilets. But just wondering, has there been any other initiatives or issues around the toilet?
There's nobody has been, you know, done. There's nothing specific. The easy way of putting it. Certainly, if you're giving somebody ownership of cleaning out a toilet, you have to allow, you know, and you're taking them from another role, you do have to allow them adequate time to be able to undertake that additional role. Because you're having, in effect, external people, you know, people that wouldn't regularly be on site, so your bin men and that would come in and using them. An idea might be that they have to wash their hands or sanitize their hands before they're going in, okay? Within the waste industry, you would expect that there would be good hygiene to start off with. to make it up, to leave it up to every individual to clean it after themselves, it just won't work, okay? You only have to go into, buildings all around the place, and you'll see that, some toilets are an absolute disgrace, and you wonder what sort of household they've come from. To give it to, somebody ownership of it, yes. The frequency of the cleaning totally depends on its use. Yeah. So there's, it might be that there's certain periods of the day where they get, more regular cleaning will be required, okay? But again, it will boil down to the touch points. Where do you actually want them to clean, as opposed to just cleaning the toilets? Where else are you wanting them to clean? Because if you go in to tell somebody to clean the toilet, they might clean down the wash hand basin, and they might clean down the actual toilet itself and put some sort of bleach or something down it and give it a bit of a wipe. But are they likely to wash the handles, the handle of the toilet, the inside of the cubicle, the door handles, the locks going into the cubicles? There's a lot of areas that need to be cleaned, and it is quite time consuming to be done. There will be other parts of the day where you have crews off, other crews are busy, and there's no tea break, that they don't need to be done just quite as regularly. But it might be that, you have like a COVID marshal for the start, who's going to stand there and ensure that people sanitize their hands before they go in. That's going to reduce the likelihood of contamination going in there, when they're touching the surface, because the hands would be semi-clean, so we say. But yeah, I would definitely give ownership to somebody to do the cleaning for you.
Yeah.
And allow them sufficient time to do it, but definitely tell them where to clean and how often. And it might be that the supervisors for the areas of that, who are people who are familiar with those areas, know the times where the usage is going to be significantly increased, and just base it on that. But there's nothing set in stone for any organisation. It's what best suits yourself.
One of the things we had considered for sites which would be frequented more often was to get in a portaloo, but then we're at a stage now where we're thinking it's going to cause more problems. So
what you're doing with the portaloo is you're just cleaning. It's the number of areas that have to be cleaned increases.
Yeah.
So it does. The only purpose of a portaloo would be is if you are having congestion within a toilet area.
Yeah.
And you want to reduce down that congestion so that people can maintain the 2 meter social distancing. If the social distancing isn't an issue, I wouldn't worry about putting in any additional toilets.
Yeah.
Jennifer.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jennifer. If there's any benefit, we did nominate a toilet cleaner as such, and he does the toilets twice a day. But in between, we clean them down in the morning and evening again. Between times, what we done was I ordered in a wee knapsack and fill it full of disinfectant, and then at a couple of intervals during the day, like before break time, before lunch times, he just comes in and gives everything a wee fine mist. We spray it around, not a full clean, but just a wee mist, disinfectant in and around the whole toilet area, covering handles, toilet rims. If that's any benefit, that's just a 2-minute job. For all intents and purposes, it's all nice and clean for any of them, the guys coming in after lunch or their break times. The toilets have been refreshened up as such.
Yeah.
Yeah. The full clean isn't required every single time that the person goes in to clean. It might be a full clean once a day, but every time after that, it's just the touch points.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any advice on substances to use?
Whatever you can get your hands on, Jim. It's not easy.
Let's keep it off your hands.
Sorry, can I mention just about the toilet cleaning? There's a lot of good stuff coming out of Dubai and Saudi Arabia, where they're doing deep cleans once a week and various things they got there in certain areas. So there's some good companies out there. If you just go in and sort of put it up, you'll get the information what they actually do. It's actually being very professionally done, so it might be worthwhile just looking at that. And some of our local companies are starting to do it now, as you know. Different ones have started doing that. those ones are doing deep cleans and various things like that. So if you do have an issue, at least we have companies locally that will do that.
One of you folks are talking about deep cleaning. I can hear the fogging machine running outside my office now as we speak. They're fogging away there with an antibacterial agent, and it's quite a quick process, so it's almost working for us. The only thing is it'll destroy paper. If you've got paper in an office, that will be destroyed on you. So if you're going into deep cleaning the offices, getting all the stuff put away.
That'll be a great benefit for the days of the civil service. Once the civil service gets back in business, lots of paper can be destroyed easily.
Yeah.
Folks, is there any more questions?
You know, I suppose one, you know, we're talking about the return to work for the office staff. What is the thoughts on pod working, where, you know, 2 colleagues in one office? Should we be trying to just limit it just to have one in an office, or is there an acceptance with social distancing? Of course, you know, 2 meters is not being broken, but having more than one in an office. Because here the internal debate really is, it seems to be we're going to go with just one person in an office. That's the direction we're heading. But I do feel that, you know, again, because of mental health and different reasons, if we're adhering to 2 meters and, you know, they're not within 2 meters of each other, 2 people in an office working as a pod is not the greatest of risks. What do you folks think on that one?
Well, David, can I give you a civil service upgrade on that? Some civil servants have actually been getting letters this week to actually say that they will not be working in their office space until January 2021. That they will be only asked to come in 2 days a week and share sort of offices at certain times. So basically, in the day, the civil service are actually saying that they will not be full working until at least January 2021.
I'm hearing the same messages here, Gordon. You know, there is the same talk that message has got out that it's 2021 before the great return will happen.
Mm-hmm.
David, we had 2, just an example, we had 2 girls arrive back there. Well, one arrived back the week before, another one arrived back last week. And one arrived back last week, I was putting her in a different office, and she said if she was going to be put in a different office, she wanted to be furloughed. She said no way, she wants to actually talk to somebody because she's been at home for the past whatever number of months with 3 young children. And she said she came to me crying. She said, look, if I'm returning back, I'm not sitting in an office by myself. So there was, you know, I was happy enough that there was 2 meters of distance not there, but I was like, we have all other office space, but I didn't know what to do, and they needed her to work. So we have put her in the same office with the other girl and put 2 meters. But again, she was kind of down to her mental health and how she's been sitting at home with 3 young children and things like that. We have put her protection up as well. But yeah, that's the first instance we've had of that. Somebody actually said, if you don't put me in an office with somebody else to talk to, I'm going to go off and furlough. She was actually requesting to be furloughed, and we were like, oh my goodness.
She wanted to go back into work for a break.
Yeah, she wanted to go back. I understand. I'm so with her. But yeah, so she actually wanted to go back to work. Right, she was under no circumstances she wanted to stay at home with 3 children. She didn't want to go into an office by herself. She was like, no way, not happening.
I'm hearing the same, Wendy. I'm hearing the same thing from a few folks here. I think we're in the same situation with this debate rage on for a while. You know, I think there is people that are just mad keen to get out of the house and get back to work.
It really is. Mm-hmm. We're actually getting like requests, and can I go back to work? We're kind of going, oh, you know, gosh, the people actually wanting to go back. Yeah, I'm kind of one of them people at the minute because of frying my brain. But yeah, but no, I'll be all right. Yeah, so that was just one example. We have had to put 2 people in the office because they're CRM, so they're the ones that are, you know, we're having a lot of downtime with telephones and sales and stuff like that. So the manager just came and said that we need those 2 people to be working. She goes, our sales have gone down, so we need to get them back into the office. What can you do? So I said, right, okay, as long as she sits there, and to like tea and whatever. So yeah, we just had, even though there's other office space, but it was just under sort of their terms that they said, you know, yeah. So that was just an example of what we have faced the past couple of weeks. I'm sure there'll be a lot more to come.
Yeah, plenty of fun and games ahead of us.
Yeah, we're roughly the same, guys. We have our offices would be mostly open plan, and then a few sort of breakout offices, and same again. You know, I think the girls were offered, listen, we can get you into the offices each, and they says no, we don't really want that. As you said, Wendy, they're coming back in and they want some sort of social interaction. So, yep, screens have just been put up. Obviously, our kind of sales department is able to continue working from home. So, sort of the admin section have sort of spread over into the sales desks to give them a bit more distance between them. They've put up sort of desks to partition off areas so that sort of people are forced to almost talk from other sides of the room rather than being able to walk over to somebody's desk. You know, there's a physical barrier for them now that they are sort of having to talk from a distance. So, yeah, it certainly seems to be that there's a want and a need to get back into the office with other people, but also, you know, with the use of partitions, etc., and, you know, rotated time for breaks and lunch and things like that, it seems to be working well for them. So I think they're back sort of 2 weeks now. 75% of our office staff are back in.
Good news.
Yep, it's all changed, isn't it? So it's a constantly evolving picture. Folks, if there's no more questions or comments, big thanks to Pete for his hosting the event today again.
Thank you.
Yeah,
We have
okay.
another go in 2 or 3 weeks. Another catch up. And in the meantime, how about we think about how we could try to make WishNI better? How we can get more people involved, how we can get more out of it. But thank you very much for all your contributions today. It's been good fun. Good seeing you all.
Thanks,
Thanks once again.
Very interesting. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
You guys take care.
Take
All the
care.
best, folks. Bye.
Cheerio.
Bye.
Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.